What if it was hijacking or terrorism or mechanical failure or pilot error? But what if it was something fully that we don't really understand? A lot of people have been asking about that, about black holes and on and on and on and all of these conspiracy theories. Let's look at this. Noah says, what else can you think about? Black hole, Bermuda Triangle. And then Deji says, just like the movie Lost. And of course, they're also referencing the Twilight Zone, which has a very similar plot. That's what people are saying. I know it's preposterous, but is it preposterous, you think?
I'm 100% sure that one day the super force, the Pais effect, the room temperature, superconductor, piezoelectricity. I call the piezoelectricity induced room temperature superconductivity. That didn't come from me.
Piezoelectricity induced room temperature superconductivity. So welcome back. It's Hermes again, bringing you another big poo. God, I gotta think of something else. So I wanted to try and share some analogs and science stuff, not to explain what happened to the plane in the MH370 videos, but to further individual understanding of these esoteric sciences that seem to have been ignored. Let's watch the videos and I'll just explain what caught my attention when I first saw them. So these two videos, well, I'm going to show the Sibbers video first, and then, I'll show them both. So I first became aware of the whole MH370's disappearance in the videos by stumbling across my boy Ashton Forbes' Twitter account back in October 15th, I believe, around that. Something about the orbs and the thermals just screamed at some of my older technical abilities, and the motion of the orbs was just uncanny. Like the way they seem to be pinned to the 777 and maintaining equidistance from the plane and one another. Now, the wild thing to me was what the videos represented. To my eye, anyways, it was superconductivity in a macro on macro scale. So at this scale, it means the possible expression of quantum properties in the real physical or macro world, if you prefer that terminology. So just to lightly touch on what I mentioned earlier, what caught my eye, the FLIR footage is what initially grabbed me. I'm not a satellite expert or anything, so the Sibbers thing wasn't really my jam. Uh, what I am an expert in is sensory equipment and weapon systems. So I have an extensive background as a naval weapon technician and sonar technician for the Canadian Armed Forces. So that makes me an SME, a subject matter expert on weapon systems. The footage from the MCQ-1 Grey Eagle struck me as genuine, as it reflects the same image qualities as the CWIS, which is the close-in weapon systems. For me, it's a Block 1 Bravo camera. It's a Raytheon camera on the Phalanx system. It's a 6-barrel 20 millimeter Gatling gun with a search and track radar on top. Pretty much looks like a R2D2 with a big old hog on her. On a side note, the thing is like a seagull shit magnet. You have to clean the poop off, or else it'll mess up target acquisition. It's super annoying and sketchy being up there. There's no hard points to harness onto. So, yeah, you're pretty much just sitting on top of a dome with your legs wrapped around the fucking thing. Anyways, I recognized the relative heat overlay in the MH370 video from the FLIR, which stands for Forward-Looking Infrared Radio Detection and Ranging. That it's available on Raytheon camera systems, like the ones mounted on Canadian frigates and destroyers. and also throughout like the U.S. Navy and military. It's all the same shit. It's all the same stuff. So I recognized a very strange anomaly in the flare footage that really drove me to dig into this. The relative cold that seemed to be tracing and leading the orbs. Now that was very interesting to me because it spoke to a cold vacuum or or cavitative state that seemed to be driving the event. The endothermic zap at the end was also interesting, but first things first, the function of the orbs. So the video I just started this off with Salvatore Pais' statement: piezoelectricity induced room temperature superconductivity. That is a very loaded statement. Let's break it down and see what we find. Now, to start, let's just touch on the piezoelectric effect and how it could relate to the video and Sal Pais' statement. First off, I'm just going to show you Steve Mold's explanation. He's got an amazing YouTube video on just basic anything science.
There's a few different types of piezoelectric crystal that you can buy, but I'm going to look at quartz in particular, which is the first piezoelectric crystal to ever be discovered. This is what a giant quartz crystal looks like. If you were to take a slice of quartz away from this crystal and compress it, you'd be able to measure a voltage across the slice, but you'd have to slice it at just the right angle like this. I don't know if this is the right angle, but it'd be something like that, and it's got to be just right. And to see why you've got to get the angle just right, we need to look at the lattice structure of quartz. So quartz is made of silicon dioxide, so it's silicon and oxygen.
So the piezoelectric effect is the ability of certain materials to generate an electric charge in response to applied mechanical stress. The word piezoelectric is derived from the Greek paizein, which means to squeeze or press, and piezeo, which is Greek for push. I'm butchering the pronunciation. I'm terrible at it. One of the unique characteristics of the piezoelectric effect is that it is reversible, meaning that materials exhibiting the dielectric effect also exhibit the converse piezoelectric effect. So you can stress a quartz crystal to induce a voltage differential, and conversely, you can apply voltage to stress the crystal. That's how quartz clocks work. They shape the crystal into a tuning fork and pass current through it. The output is a consistent clock signal. Quartz crystals are also used to provide a clock signal to pretty much all electronic systems today. So you need it for analog to digital conversion. So A to D, D to A, and that's dependent on clock systems or clock cycles. Sorry. Without clocks, you can't do any computations. That's another topic for another video. It's very, that's where we get into programming and digital logics, and there's a lot of stuff. So getting back on track, let's get to the induced room temperature superconductivity. Now I'm just going to play you a video from that was just put up back in 2011. It's been out there forever. Whew. Now, the next bit is just straight up speculation on my part. I'm currently performing my own experiments on this stuff. Most superconductivity requires the materials to be brought to a significantly low temperature to cause the quantum locking pinning effect. Now, specifically for the scenario involving the MH370 videos, what makes me think of this effect is how the superconducting material responds to magnetic flux, or flux pinning. It's essentially the property of certain materials to conduct magnetic flux lines through the material. So it's both an equalized attractive and repulsive force pinning the material to the magnetic flux. But why? Why does it have to be cold? Now, I think it needs to be cold, well, to create a contractive force within the material. Like in Steve Mold's example where he squeezes down, I think that's the internalized pressure that causes molecules to align in a certain way to entice flow of electrons. Now, why does that work? Now, I think, I'm just guessing here, I think it's creating like the whole piezoelectric effect. I think it creates micro waveguides within the material. Think like nanotubes with specific orientation once you've stressed it. That entices electrons to follow that path as it becomes easier based on waveguide principles. Waveguides allow transmission of power and signal without loss due to wires. So they don't use wires because it's literally rectangular metal tubes that are needed for signal transmission and reception. I can't get into the nitty gritty of waveguide theory, as that would be like trying to explain why hot air rises on Earth, creating the normal, like pointed flame, versus in space where an open flame takes on a spherical shape. What I'll touch on with the waveguide theory is the transmission of power and signal using electromagnetic waves. So there is like voltage standing wave ratios for consideration for like RAD for radiation hazards. The reason I speculate waveguide principles are needed to truly understand this effect is you have to look at the physical orientation of the atoms in the material being used. That's what I believe one of the keys is to understanding this phenomenon we see in the MH370 videos and understanding true electrical flow. To simplify the right-hand rule in this context, we can think of the thumb as the kinetic direction of force and the curling of the fingers, right? The curling of the fingers as a following motion of the electrons. So given a chance, electrons will always take the path of least resistance, meaning they're super lazy, and that makes them predictable. Using the right-hand rule may be a component to predicting the flow of magnetic fields when designing a system to intersect at these scales. Iterative design, if you will. So yeah, just basic inductance using the right-hand rule is just moving a magnet along a wire or a wire over a magnet in its simplest form. Now, the movement of electrons is perpendicular and torsional. So think of a drain and you pull the plug and you can see in the northern hemisphere it will follow the right hand rule when it's when the water is draining, right? In southern hemisphere it's the opposite. So that's its own component. You gotta you'll learn about that eventually, probably. Now what I've touched on today is just the first bit of how this event could be explained with modern analogs. Hopefully this will further the discussion and get some real scientists to actually look at what could be possible. I'm not holding my breath, so that's why I'm going in on my own. Now, for future topics, I might talk on the frequency spectrums and wavelengths, lambda. That's not really understood by normal people. Meissner effect, quantum locking pinning, which I can go into more depth on. I'm not a super expert on that bit. I've got speculation. And maybe, you know what? The measurement problem and observation, what that actually means, how that sensory equipment works. Frames of reference, how to take readings, maybe even like inertial navigation systems, ring laser gyros, whatever. Do all that stuff. And yeah, so I think what I just listed off, what I tried touching on to bounce off of what Salvatore Pais had stated in his interview on the Unity Project podcast, that's where I think we can start digging a bit deeper and find out what this event is all about. And I'm probably gonna make a few more of these. Like there's a lot of components to this. I didn't actually realize how much, and hopefully you got some from this. But anyways, this is Hermes, and I just brought you the big poo.